Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Age Better, where each week we take a deep dive into all the ways we can feel better, look better, live better, and, yep, age better. I'm your host, Barbara Hannah Grufferman. Today's episode is a must-listen if you want to tackle inflammation, improve your gut health, and maybe even shed a few extra pounds. My guest is Stephen Perrine, co-author of the New York Times bestseller, The Whole Body Reset. Steve was also on the show to talk about that book over a year ago, but today, Steve is here to discuss his new book, which is already an Amazon #1 bestseller, The Full Body Fat Fix, which dives into how your gut health impacts your weight, your overall well-being, and how well you will age. Stephen Perrine was also the brilliant mind behind the Eat This, Not That book series, and he also manages all health and wellness content for AARP publications. During this discussion, we'll explore the crucial connection between gut health and chronic inflammation. And you really want to know about this because inflammation is a root cause for some of the most common preventable illnesses and diseases that can start to pop up once you're in midlife. Steve will share practical science-backed strategies to optimize your gut microbiome, reduce inflammation, and achieve sustainable weight loss by what you eat, how you eat, and even when you eat. But you know what? He makes it all so easy by offering recipes and a 7-day kickstart plan to get you going on the right path. Full disclosure, I have become obsessed with dousing the flames of inflammation since reading this book, and you will too, I am sure. So pop in your earbuds, take me with you for a nice heart-healthy walk, and let's get this conversation started. Stay tuned.
This Friday, your favorite emotions are back on the big screen in Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2.
It's time to greet your Team Riley! It's anger!
Let me at him!
Fear!
Safety checklist is complete!
Disgust! Ew! Sadness is in the house!
Oh, no.
Hello, I'm anxiety. I'm one of Riley's new emotions.
Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2.
There's a part 2? We're going!
Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested. Only in theaters Friday. Get tickets now.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Welcome back to Age Better, Steve. It's so good to have you.
Thanks for having me back, Barbara, the notorious BHG.
Listen, the last time you were on the show, I want to say over a year ago, you and Heidi Skolnick were on talking about your previous book, which was amazing, The Whole Body Reset. But now you're going to be talking and telling us all about the details of the Full Body Fat Fix. I read this book. I love this book. You have gotten me obsessed. Just like with the last book, you got me obsessed about protein timing. And that's all I wanted to talk about for months and months and months and still do. But now you have created in me an obsession with the gut microbiome and inflammation. So we're going to go into details. And by the way, congratulations on the book. It's already a bestseller, #1 on Amazon. You were on the Today Show. Great segment, by the way. So tell us, Steve, what inspired you to write this particular book? And how does it build on the Whole Body Reset? And how is it different?
It's been very interesting for me. I think that the idea for this book came from simply going through life and noticing a very specific phenomenon, which is that when I used to drive up from New York City and various wealthy communities up to upstate New York, where I grew up, I noticed that the further you got into lower income communities, the heavier the people got. And then when you went back to wealthier communities, they got thin again. And I wanted to get to the bottom of that. In fact, research shows that you are far more likely to be overweight or obese, if your local community household income is $45,000 or less, and far less likely to be obese or overweight if your community's household income is $65,000 or above. And we're told all the time, well, it's too many calories in, calories out. And that didn't make sense to me, because the reality is calories come from food. Food costs money. And we know that expensive restaurants are actually far more caloric than inexpensive restaurants. So it didn't make sense. If people are buying and eating more calories, why are they thinner? And so I wanted to dive into that idea of it's calories. And it turns out it's not calories. It's not calories at all. In fact, a study was done in Minnesota that found that wealthier households not only spent more on food, but they spent more on sweets and snacks than lower income households. So it's not even that people are in lower income households are overeating. There's something else going on. That something else is chronic inflammation. Obesity is not a disease, the way we're told. What obesity really is a symptom of another disease called chronic inflammation. Other symptoms of chronic inflammation: diabetes, heart disease, some cases of Alzheimer's, certain forms of cancer, arthritis, COPD, asthma. All of these are symptoms of increased inflammation in the body. And so if we want to deal with obesity and weight gain and all of these other health issues, what we have to do is we have to attack chronic inflammation. And the primary driver of chronic inflammation is our diet.
And so you see now why you have created this obsession that I have with chronic inflammation. I mean, how could I not be? Because I want to avoid all of those very common and many preventable diseases and illnesses that very often pop up in midlife, unfortunately.
One of the reasons why we think of these as diseases of aging is because as we age, inflammation tends to go up. So it's a natural process. We get older, our inflammation increases. So the key is to really focus on that and attack inflammation at its source. And the source of chronic inflammation is a dysfunctional gut microbiome.
Microbiome. Okay, let's jump right to that and its significance to our overall health and wellness, as you just pointed out, and why people who are trying to lose weight should really focus on their gut health, which you make a very clear connection in your book between all three: gut health and inflammation and weight loss and weight management. And my understanding from having medical experts on the show talking about the gut microbiome over the last 2 years is that we really want a varied gut microbiome, almost like a jungle in there. And as you just pointed out about getting older, as we get older, our gut microbiomes actually naturally become less diverse. So we have to work even harder to make them more diverse. So talk to us a little bit about all those connecting dots, please.
Sure. If you have a backyard bird feeder, you know that if you put one kind of seed out there, you're going to get a couple different kinds of birds. Whereas if you put a mix of different kinds of seeds, you're going to get a wider variety of birds. So the same thing applies to your gut microbiome. It's like a national park. It's like the Yosemite of you. And what you want to do is ensure that all of those different microbes, there are about 100 trillion of them in there, about 5 pounds worth. 5 pounds of you is actually microbes from your gut. You want to make sure that you're feeding them a wide variety of different kinds of plant fibers because they all eat different things. It's sort of like, think about Yosemite, right? The coyotes and the mice and the hawks and the deer and the bison don't eat the same things. They eat different things.
Right.
And then they integrate together and create a healthy ecosystem. So what's happening in our diet today is that we eat more and more processed foods, fewer and fewer specific kinds of, different kinds of foods. We're starting to starve out our microbiome. So there are 50,000 edible plants on Earth, but 2/3 of what we eat are just 3 species: corn, wheat, and rice.
Wow.
Of all the vegetables that we eat in America, 50% of them are just 2: potatoes and tomatoes.
That's incredible.
Well, we evolved to eat a wide array of plants, and our microbiomes have evolved with us also to eat a wide variety of plants. Now we're eating in this really bizarre way where we're only giving them a handful of different kinds of fibers every day instead of dozens, which is how we're supposed to eat. So that's number one. Another odd thing that's happening is a lot of people don't realize this, but the microbiome competes with us for calories. So when we eat a whole foods diet, and those foods are digested and they go through the entire intestinal tract into the gut microbiome starts to eat what's left over. The gut microbiome can consume as much as 400 calories a day. But when we eat ultra-processed foods, I like to call them pre-digested foods. Those foods, because they've had all the nutrients and fibers stripped out, they're absorbed in our stomach and small intestine. They never even get down into the gut microbiome. So we're starving the microbiome and we're overfeeding ourselves. If you eat a meal or you eat a day's worth of calories all from whole foods, and I eat a day's worth of calories from fast food and ultra processed food, I'm getting 400 calories more than you are.
That is so shocking. And you talk about all of this in your book, which I really love because I like to see the studies and the research and the science behind these things that are being discussed. And you do deliver all of that. I appreciate that. So you just talked about creating a more diverse gut, and you do offer, which makes it easy for all of us reading the book who really want to do this and be serious about it. You offer specific foods and specific plants, and you even give recipes. And I made a little note here that you mentioned Dave's Killer Bread, which happens to be my go-to bread every morning. I plop on some cottage cheese, some blueberries, and that's what I do. So tell us about some of the power foods that you recommend in addition to Dave's Killer Bread.
Sure. Well, what's interesting is a study from the American Gut Project came out just a couple of years ago that found the people with the healthiest and most diverse microbiomes ate at least 30 different plants every week, which it sounds like a lot, but honestly, it's not. I mean, if you would have one slice of Dave's Killer Bread, you've already knocked out 21 plants right there.
Incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. But if you have a salad, instead of getting the romaine or the iceberg or the kale, get a spring mix. You could quadruple the amount of plants you're getting. If you get a can of peanuts, get a can of mixed nuts. If you're going to have berries, get mixed berries. Whenever you mix up and add new plants, then you're creating diversity in your diet, which means you're creating diversity in your microbiome, which means that you're filling that bird feeder with different kinds of seeds and getting as many different kinds of microbes as possible.
Yeah, I want a gold star, Steve, because everything that you mentioned already, that's exactly what I do. I mix up all the greens together, all different kinds of greens for a salad. I mix up the nuts, I mix up the berries.
Right.
And again, because I'm so obsessed with this mixing up the diversity of my gut microbiome, because I really believe that this is all true and scientifically backed, that if we can douse the flames of inflammation in this way, we will go a long way in helping us all to age better.
And you can do this so quickly. You can do that.
Yes.
I set up a 7-day challenge. And the idea is, how many different plants can you eat in 7 days? Now, you got to get to at least 30. When I did it, I got 65. I consider myself the world record holder. I challenge your listeners to see if they can beat me. And there's a simple tracking log.
Come on, everyone. You can do it. You can beat Steve.
Yeah, beat me at it. There's a simple tracking log in the Full Body Fat Fix that shows you how you can do it really, really simply. We're not talking about like going out in your backyard and grazing on the lawn. We're talking about pizza. We're talking about pasta. We're talking about sandwiches. In fact, I even have a Firefight in 5, which shows you how you can eat 30 different plants in a single day. Again, pizza, pasta, desserts. It's very, very simple to do. It's all
very
a matter
accessible.
It's a matter
really
of adding, right?
What I would call it. Yep.
Yeah. Rule number 1, never eat ice cream naked. If you're going to have ice cream, and it's relatively healthy dessert, every froyo shop in America has walnuts and peanuts and blueberries and raspberries. That's how you dress up your dessert. And instead of it just being a dessert of bleh, now it's a dessert with 4 or 5 different plants in it. And you're feeding your microbiome and making it happy.
So let's segue over to protein timing.
Mm-hmm.
We now know from your book and from a lot of other research that protein is important, especially as we get older. A lot of people are already getting enough protein in their diets. It depends upon how you exercise and how you live, what your age is. And as you get older, we need it even more. And as you pointed out very clearly in your other book, The Whole Body Reset, that we need it earlier in the day or else you're at a protein deficit. So
Right.
Talk to us a little bit about that and how that has a starring role in this book.
Sure. So if you make a muscle, feel that bicep right there. That's about 5% of your total skeletal muscle mass. That's how much we lose every decade after age 30. And the reason is because we developed something called anabolic resistance. Essentially, it's a fancy way of saying our bodies have difficulty taking the protein that we eat and turning it into muscle. So when my 16-year-old daughter has a glass of milk, she gets 8 grams of protein. Her body goes, yes, let's start rebuilding some muscle. If I have a glass of milk with 8 grams of protein, my body says, whatever, I'm not impressed. It's almost like the make muscle button gets dulled as we age, which is why we keep having to hit it harder with larger doses. So the average American eats about 90 grams of protein a day. And that's actually about what you should eat. The problem is we tend to eat 60% of it at dinner time.
Right.
So we start breakfast, we have a Danish, a donut, a cup of coffee. Even if we're eating healthy with oatmeal and almonds and blueberries, we're still not getting the amount of protein that we need. Women need at least 25 grams of protein and men about 30 grams of protein to start the day. And if you don't start your day with that amount of protein, you are in muscle loss mode that day. So every day is a muscle gain day or a muscle loss day. And if you have more muscle loss days than muscle gain days, that leads us to something called frailty, which is where you begin to have difficulty doing everyday tasks as we get older. It seems to be a natural process. It is not a natural process. It is something that you can prevent and even reverse with a combination of protein timing and some relatively modest exercise. In fact, studies show that people in their 60s who eat using this method and then weight train have the exact same results as people in their 20s.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So this idea you can't build or maintain muscle as you're older, wrong. You can, but you have to eat right in order to support it.
Right. No, it's amazing. It's all science-backed. I've been following, because, I have a very real interest in bone health and bone loss and bone density really goes hand in hand with muscle sarcopenia, muscle loss. And so this is of great importance to me, especially as I'm getting older. But getting back to protein. So you do recommend, of course, 25 to 30 grams in the morning as well. And one thing that you do recommend is whey protein, especially isolate, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Whey protein as but tell us about that. What do you recommend?
So there's 2 types of whey protein, isolate and concentrate. I'll get into the difference in a moment. But whey protein is particularly high in an amino acid called leucine, which is sort of the magic muscle maker for older people. So as we get older, it becomes more and more important to kind of focus on that. You don't have to have it if you don't like it. If you want to eat Greek yogurt or cottage cheese, if you're vegan and you want to eat a combination of plants to build up that protein, that's fine. But the easiest, simplest, and most effective way is with whey protein. I make it in smoothies. Sometimes I'll mix it into yogurt, or I'll mix it into like cereal with milk. That is definitely, a way I recommend. There are two types of whey protein, as you mentioned, concentrate and isolate.
Mm-hmm.
Concentrate is more caloric. And for people who are much older, people in their late 70s, 80s, early 90s, who are having difficulty holding on to mass, it is not a bad way to go. The problem with concentrate is that it's heavy on lactose. So if you're at all lactose sensitive, I recommend whey protein isolate, which has had the lactose pulled out. So if you have any lactose sensitivity, the guy on the bus next to you will be very happy that you chose isolate over concentrate.
Well, since reading your book, The Whole Body Reset, I have been using isolate whey protein. So thank you for that. In smoothies with a lot of other stuff.
Right.
Getting back to the diversity and varied stuff. And, I put in kale and I put in a little yogurt and lots and lots and lots of frozen blueberries.
Well, that's the fun thing about this 7-day challenge. I like to say that this isn't really a diet, it's a scavenger hunt. And so what can you do? What did I not eat yesterday? Let's see. Yesterday I had a smoothie and it had blueberries and it had strawberries and it had a banana and it had kale and it had pine nuts. So today I'm going to use blackberries and I'm going to use golden berries and I'm going to throw in some pumpkin seeds and some sunflower seeds and some hemp seeds. And that's going to be different, right? So it's every day. Like, we've been taught this idea of superfoods.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was getting to that. That's exactly what I wanted to know. Because I have to tell you, Steve, wait a minute. When I was reading the book and reading it and reading it, I continue reading it, I kept picturing you rolling your eyes when you were writing about superfoods. And I said, okay, I have to ask him about what's the issue with superfoods? Superfoods, Steve.
Problem with superfoods. So there's only one superfood, and that's the food that you didn't eat today. Right? So we like to develop habits. And if every breakfast you have oatmeal with blueberries and almonds because you've been told they're superfoods, and every lunch you have a kale or spinach salad with quinoa, well, okay. But the problem is, even those healthy habits are unhealthy if you're not mixing them up.
Yeah.
So those aren't superfoods, they're kryptonite. And it becomes easy in the diet guru business. It's easy to come up with like, here's the 10 or 12 or 15 superfoods that you should consume. No, absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, eat them today. Then go and find 15 different ones tomorrow, because that's what adds diversity to your diet. When you eat only one kind of fiber, you feed only one kind of microbe. When you eat a wide variety of plant fibers, you feed a wide variety of microbes. When we talk about plants, what we're talking about is fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, whole grains, and legumes. So it could be beans or lentils or peas or peanuts. It could be macadamia nuts, walnuts, hickory nuts, pecans, pistachios. It could be any kind of berry, anything that came off of a tree, anything that grew on the ground, anything you picked from a vine. It could be whole grains from quinoa to corn to whole wheat, you name it, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, like, just keep going for that variety. Just look for something different.
And again, you really make it so easy and accessible, because I don't think people realize how very easy it is to add so many of these foods into their daily diets. I just don't think they realize. But once you read the book, everyone, you'll be able to see, some very easy ways to kind of throw beans into so many things. I put beans into my new favorite bean is the cannellini bean.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of obsessed with. I get obsessed. Obsessed. It's true. It's true. Okay. So you roll your eyes at the superfoods. Okay. We got that. We now understand why. Thank you for that. But you also roll your eyes at very big, really big time about vitamins and supplements and the whole supplement industry.
Yes.
And I'm so with you on that, especially I have to say lately, I have been seeing so many medical experts, by the way, actual doctors out there on Instagram Reels and TikTok talking about all the supplements they take in a given day. And I think, oh my gosh, that was so excessive.
Yeah.
And in fact, I had Heidi Skolnick on recently to talk about, Heidi, is this just me? Is this excessive, or is this what we should be doing? But anyway,
well,
so you have the same view.
You know what's great about supplements, especially vitamins and minerals? They're very profitable. They're extremely profitable.
And not regulated.
And not regulated. And there is a very good reason why so many internet experts and conspiracy theorists are trying to sell you supplements, because the markup is amazing.
Amazing.
But let me tell you, there's maybe, if you go to your doctor and your doctor says you are low in vitamin D and recommends a vitamin D3 supplement, great. If you're concerned about calcium and they recommend a calcium supplement, great. If you're older, and by older I really mean 75 and up, you might want to consider a vitamin B12 supplement.
Right.
Because as our digestive tracts age, we begin to have a little bit of difficulty absorbing B12. We eat enough of it, but sometimes we have trouble absorbing it and need more. Beyond those three, it doesn't work. And
it's really interesting, isn't it?
And it's so interesting. We don't know why they don't work. Right? So lots of research is done on almonds, and almonds are very high in vitamin E. Therefore, vitamin E must be really healthy. So take this vitamin E pill. It doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't work that way. There's a quote I pulled out of your book that states 70% of American adults take at least one vitamin or supplement daily, and almost 3 in 10 take 4 or more. That is excessive.
Right.
That is excessive. And many of them are unnecessary.
And there's very, very little evidence that they work. There is some evidence that they can be harmful.
Yeah.
We think that one of the reasons that these supplements don't work is because your body doesn't know what to do with them, and your microbiome doesn't know what to do with them. So you eat an almond, and all the nutrients in the almond go down into your gut, into your microbiome, where these this 100 trillion microbes parse it out and figure out what to do with it. And they create their own enzymes, short chain fatty acids that help to metabolize things like serotonin and oxytocin. And when we just take a pill, we're not feeding the microbiome. The body just doesn't know what to do with it. I wonder if there's like a metaphor I can come up with. But basically, your body has been taught over tens of thousands of years of evolution to do a whole bunch of things. But processing pills, it has not been taught how to do that.
Is not one of them, no. So, okay, let's segue over to, aside from weight loss, what are the other significant health benefits that people can expect from improving their gut health? I mean, we already touched on the fact that it will improve, kind of lower their inflammation, which is, in most of us, is chronic, which can lead to so many preventable common diseases and illnesses. But talk us through that a little bit more.
Sure. So imagine that there aren't a whole bunch of diseases. Imagine that there's only one disease. And when it comes to the diseases of aging, and that disease is chronic inflammation. So whether it's your heart, your liver, your lungs, your brain, inflammation is a cause of havoc. And it's a cause of heart disease, it's a cause of diabetes, and it's a cause of obesity. Consider this fact. when you're obese, 40% of the cells in your fatty tissue aren't fat cells. They're autoimmune cells. They're your body trying to fend off the threat of these swollen fatty cells in your body. So that big hard belly that we get when we get overweight, it's not fat cells, it's autoimmune cells jamming in there, trying to manage an inflammatory situation. So whenever you feel like, oh, I've gained weight, try to think, I'm on fire. I'm not fat, I'm on fire. I think one of the worst things about weight and body issues is that we blame ourselves. We call ourselves fat. We let other people make fun of our weight. Oh, we're fat. We feel fat.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had hay fever and your eyes were runny and your nose were runny, you wouldn't walk around going, oh, I'm such a crybaby.
Mm-hmm.
It's the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It is your body's reaction to a autoimmune problem. Obesity and hay fever are the same thing. They're just two sides of a coin.
Two sides of a coin, all connected to the same root cause. And it's very interesting because with this whole conversation now about Ozempic and Wegovy and the other medications, of course, weight is very much on people's minds, and how basically those medications are telling people, I think the message is that weight is an obesity is a disease.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're saying, and in your book, is that it is not a disease, but it's connected to something.
Right. It's a symptom.
Really, it's a symptom. Yeah.
It's a symptom. When you attack the symptom, you're not attacking the disease.
And also the comparison or the connection I want to make here too is that with a medication like Ozempic, you're kind of giving up control in a way to a medication that's going to help control you and your cravings and so on and so forth, if I understand how these medications do work. Whereas what you're really proposing in your book and with this plan is that you can, in fact, control a lot of this. You can control how you eat, what you eat, even when you eat. And that's what you're encouraging people to do, right?
Well, I would say I don't want people to think, okay, I can only eat between these hours or on these days or when the moon is full. I can always
right. It's
only
not
eat
intermittent
certain
fasting.
foods. I can only eat keto. I can only eat paleo. I can only eat vegetarian. I can only eat stuff that grows in the Mediterranean. It's not like that.
No.
It's not the situation.
Mm-hmm.
The situation is you need to increase the variety of foods that you eat. If you are an obsessive pizza aficionado, then eat your pizza. But get some artichokes on it, or get some onions or some broccoli or some black olives or some red peppers, right?
Yep, that's
Mix
what I do.
Or add a bunch, or get some different, every time you order, get something different. If you like pasta, get some broccoli or cauliflower in that pasta. Try different kinds of pastas like chickpea pasta or red lentil pasta, or even just whole wheat pasta. Again, we talked about ice cream. We talked about cereal. If you have a cereal that you love, great. Today, put one kind of berry, one kind of nut, and one kind of seed on it. Tomorrow, put a different berry, a different nut, and a different seed.
Mm-hmm.
Don't change the way that you eat, but rather increase the different kinds of plants in your diet. Eventually, you might find that you're eating less of the unhealthy foods.
Right.
Because you're starting to focus more on these plants. But that's not step one. Step one is eat the way you eat, but start getting more different plants, nuts, seeds, legumes, whole grains, fruits, and vegetables into your daily diet. See if you can get to 30, right?
Right. And then hopefully they'll edge out things like sugar. We haven't talked about sugar, but that is a high calorie item and also something that has been connected to inflammation in the body and obesity, of course, and really isn't all that good for us. But I mean, like you, I don't believe in giving up everything for a few things. But hopefully, I think the goal here is that, as you just said, you keep adding in all the good stuff, and then maybe in time, some of the bad stuff will kind of ease out of your lives.
Or swap the bad stuff.
Yeah.
If you don't get the cake, get the pie, because the pie comes with some fruits. Pumpkin pie.
I'm a pie person anyway.
Pumpkin
so.
pie
Good.
is loaded with fiber. It's so healthy for you. Get the ice cream with the don't get the ice cream cone, get the banana split, right?
Yeah.
It's just look for those opportunities to add those plants in. And eventually you can move away from the unhealthy stuff, but make that job one. And again, you can remake your microbiome in 7 days.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. Again, I have had some medical experts on talking about the gut microbiome, and that's all they do. That's all they focus on in their labs. And they say the same thing, that you can change your gut health. You can change the diversity of your gut microbiome. It's possible.
Right. And it happens very quickly. That's why I have in the Full Body Fat Fix, that's why I have this 7-day challenge.
Yes.
I even have like the Firefighting 5, like I said, where it's 5 foods that give you 30 plants in a single day. That's how easy this is. So really focusing on that and having fun.
Yeah, no, you've made it easy. You've made it. But now I just want to segue over to, you've referenced exercise, how important it is, strength training. But are there some specific exercises that are really work with this plan to help us maximize the time spent exercising, to really douse the flames of inflammation is always the goal?
What is interesting is that studies have shown that people who run half marathons have healthier microbiomes at the end of the race than they did at the beginning of the race. So that's a new microbiome in 2 hours. 3 if it's me.
What about marathon runners? I want to know, because I'm a 5-hour marathoner. I'm pretty slow. So is it even doubly good? I'll have to look that up in my Funk and Wagnall.
The theory is that when you're creating lactic acid, which is a byproduct of exercise, the microbiome can feed on that lactic acid. So it helps to improve the microbiome. But I wanted to look at different studies that looked at exercise in the microbiome specifically. And what studies show is that when it comes to aerobic exercise, moderate exercise is the best. Not too fast, not too slow. By moderate, we're talking about an aerobic pace at which you're breathing a little heavy, but you can still hold a conversation.
Yes.
If that feels right to you, then you're doing the best possible aerobic exercise for your microbiome. And then we're also going to supplement that with strength training, which is going to get that lactic acid going. But again, also helping to build and maintain muscle. Every single day, your body is breaking down and building back muscle. And it's up to you whether you're going to break down more than you build up or build up more than you break down. As we get older, it's just becomes so much more important.
Yeah. And there really is a sweet spot here, as you just pointed out. And it's exactly what you said. It's not too fast. It's not too long either. In fact, there really is a correlation apparently between, let's say, endurance runners and heart issues that can happen, or endurance runners and an increase in inflammation. So more studies are coming out about that. So that is excessive. Running marathons on a regular basis is excessive. It's that sweet spot of moving, like what you said, not too heavy, not too hard, not too long, is perfect. Now we get to the part of our conversation, Steve, when I want to ask you, give us a typical day for Steve.
Okay, well, typical day for me, like I said, I usually start with a smoothie that has whey protein. If I'm a little sluggish, I'll put some iced coffee in there. Otherwise, it's like kefir or something like that, a little yogurt. It's great to eat these fermented foods like yogurt, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut. But, they're not, try getting the kids to join you in the kimchi tasting menu. It's not going to happen, right? So start with a smoothie, which has a bunch of different fruits and vegetables. Typically, I have a little lunch, and that might be multi-bean soup and a little bit of some toast, cheese. A high whole grain toast has a lot of protein in it, so that'll be how I get my protein for lunch. dinner can be anything, especially now. I'm grilling. I got some shish kebabs ready to go. There's some have shrimp, some have steak. They also have onions, red peppers. They have zucchini. They have yellow squash. They have tomatoes. So that's 5 plants there. But I absolutely get a pizza once in a while. I absolutely go get ice cream once in a while. I don't believe in any kind of denying yourself at all.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, I want to go back to the first thing that we talked about, which is about calories. So when you cut calories, you're essentially starving yourself. But guess what else you're doing? You're starving your microbiome. Okay? You're not eating for one, you're eating for 100 trillion and one. So that idea of intermittent fasting or restricting calories, it's not healthy for you. It's not healthy for your microbiome.
I just want to stop you right there. When you were on the last time talking about the whole body reset, we did talk about that because, again, I like to look at the science behind certain claims, and I do think there is some good science behind intermittent fasting. However, as you very clearly pointed out during that conversation, this is not a good path for older people when we really are then at a deficit each day if we don't start eating until much later in the day. And that's like a typical intermittent fasting approach. Right. And I agree with you. And I really look more into that. And you're right. It's not really good for people over 50, over 60.
I mean, really what you should be doing is you should stop eating 8 o'clock at night.
Exactly.
And then eat when you wake up, right? There's your intermittent fast.
Which is basically what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's when people are going to the pantry at midnight and having those munchies, that's when it becomes problematic.
Right.
You should set a cutoff at night, but do not try to skip breakfast. There are so many studies that show longevity as well as a reduced risk of so many diseases comes with eating breakfast regularly.
Right. But a breakfast with protein. So, Steve, this was so much fun. I really want to applaud you. Yay! For putting out this book. I really love it. The Full Body Fat Fix. And everyone should get a copy. In fact, I am going to be giving away some copies of this book. I'll be talking about it on social media. Before we let you go, Steve, and this was really, really, really a fun conversation and very informative, and I thank you for that. Just give us 3 key takeaways that because we covered so much, that you really want the Age Better audience to remember from our chat today.
Number 1, you want to eat protein in the morning and throughout the day to preserve that muscle mass and help your muscles fight back against fat, right? There's a battle going on in your body. The good guy is muscle. The bad guys are fat and inflammation. They're working together against you and your muscles. So who are you going to feed? Who are you going to take care of? That's number 1. Number 2, your gut microbiome needs to be fed in order to stay healthy. Feed it at least 30 different plants every week. Don't eat the same superfoods every day or every week. That's not helping. And number 3, exercise moderately. You don't have to run marathons. You don't have to rack the gym. You need to do just kind of general basic exercise, moderate aerobics, light weights to keep the muscles strong, keep your body moving. Those are the 3 keys. Oh, and by the way.
Oh, yeah. A bonus tip.
Can you beat my record of 65? 65 plants. That's me. Can you beat me? Use the 7-day tracking log. See if you can beat me. Write to me at stephenperrine.com. You can touch on the talk to me button and tell me how you did.
That's great. And
make it a competition.
It is a competition. Yes, we're going to make it a competition. And I'm going to put all of that into the show notes, everyone. So after you're done listening, just check out the show notes for more details on that. Let's beat Steve. Competition. Yay. And here, another look at the Full Body Fat Fix right here. Based on science. Great book. Everyone get a copy. Steve, thank you so much. I know you'll be back because I'm sure there's another book or two in you.
Thanks, Barbara. It's so great to talk to you.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode of Age Better Podcast, please do a few things. First, share it with all your friends and family. Then, subscribe to Age Better wherever you listen to podcasts, including YouTube, so you never miss a single episode. Finally, if you have ideas for topics you want me to cover in a future episode of Age Better, send an email to agebetterpodcast@gmail.com or reach out to me on social media. Until next time, remember this: we can't control getting older, but we can control how we do it. Talk to you soon. Age Better Podcast is a proud member of the Sound Advice Network. Sound Advice, women's voices amplified.